Hey everybody, my name is Brooklyn Longera. I am your host of the AMA Way. Welcome to episode 2. Today I'm with my co-hosts Estrella and Julia.
Hello.
Hi everyone.
Hey guys, Julia here. Today our special guest has over 19 years of public and private sector public relations, copywriting, digital marketing, speech writing, event planning, project management, and nonprofit development experience, Staci Reidinger.
Yes, hi. Thanks for
Hello,
having me.
Staci.
Thank you so much
Lovely to
for
have
joining
you.
us.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll just kind of start it off with a question. I was checking out your LinkedIn and I saw you had reposted a how to build mental toughness list. And you made a comment on it and said, my favorite thing on this list is do hard things every day.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is something that we as college students should live by to become successful in the future?
Yeah. So one of the key things I think from my early upbringing when I joined the military, like at 17, that was like my first career. I often found that if I became too comfortable in what I was doing, that it stunted my growth. And it really stunted my ability to kind of push hard. And I found that there's kind of a connection between physical and mental wellness and being more resilient and strong in that way. So I think as college students, it's the same deal. I think we can get in the rut of just wanting to do easy and making things not stressful, making things as, comfortable as possible. But really to grow, just like a plant needs to grow, it has to go through uncomfortable stages. And I think pushing hard, not to the point where you're going to break, but doing things like for instance, what was my pushing hard yesterday? It was a 1-hour spin class in there, gutting it out. It was in the morning. I got that check in the box done. There isn't anything that's going to trump that for the rest of the day, but it was hard. I was in there. I'm like, you know what? I'm being challenged. That was a physical thing, but it was a mental thing. So,
Do you think like physical health and mental health all relate to like pushing yourself? Like if you push yourself too hard, like for example, like being a junior in college right now and like running this podcast with everyone and taking our exams and going to the AMA events and just really pushing ourselves. Like, do you think that's going to pay off for us in the end? And do you have suggestions for people who want to get involved?
I would just say that everyone's different. And, I teach here at San Diego State as an adjunct. And I find that some students can take on more than others. And I think it's just you being real with yourself, but also understanding there will not be any other time in your life where you might have this independence and this freedom and this energy. Okay, when you get older, ladies, the energy isn't there as much, okay? So, and I know there's Red Bull and Monster and everything else, but seriously, I do think that doing all of these things, it's stretch, but it's so important.
Yeah.
Because if you have the ability and the desire to learn more, this is the chance to do that. Yeah. You're in this academic environment, why not take advantage?
Yeah, exactly.
When you think back to yourself at our age, what were the first early stages of you implementing that within yourself?
Oh, well, I mean, Marine Corps boot camp. I went to
hey,
boot camp at 17.
Discipline in a
and
bottle.
I was in sports in high school, multi-sport athlete kind of thing, went into the military. But, they instilled that within us, very much so. And to be disciplined. Discipline is so important. I think a lot of times we have to have self-discipline.
Yeah.
It's not just others holding us accountable. It's us
100%.
doing so. And not in a mean way, but in a way that like delaying gratification. Okay, I want to do these things, but I need to, don't just, you gotta like have those little stretch goals out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, my dad was a part of the Marine Corps as well, and I think he definitely was impacted from it in so many different ways, but it's hard to take that experience and go from it in a very positive way like you do. And I just wanted to know like how you were able to, after retiring from the Marine Corps, just grow and like be so positive and be so successful in yourself and like continue doing that for yourself.
Yeah, so some people were in the military and fitness and physical and mental kind of toughness wasn't in their DNA. And so it was harder for them. But for me, I found it all to be kind of a lifestyle, right? So for me, I didn't find fitness to be a chore. Whereas in the military, you got to Run, you got to climb, Marine Corps is like one of the toughest, hardest physically. But it became a lifestyle. So then it wasn't a chore. It was more of, it's just like brushing your teeth, that kind of thing. And the same thing with, if I get asked or challenged to do something, it wasn't where I would go into a fear state. It was more of, oh, you're challenging me? All right, I'm going to take this on.
Embrace.
Or even
Yeah.
like when people say you can't do it.
That,
no.
yeah.
That's my biggest motivator.
No, we're gonna right. And so,
gonna.
in some ways, when society is kind of pushing back, you're a woman in a male-dominated occupation, working that kind of thing. I think that that's even more like for all of the people listening. It's like understand that you can kind of create your own like drive to not feel like other people are putting in your box. Kind of thing.
Definitely. I was about to bring up the male-dominated workforce also.
Yeah.
I feel like as a college student looking into my future, I've seen a lot of male-dominated marketing groups or businesses, and I've asked so many professionals, like, does that affect you? And most of them have said yes, because they sometimes are looked down upon in the workforce. Do you think that that is something that happens often, or do you think there's ways to go around that?
Are you mentioning women
Yes.
being looked down upon?
Mhm,
Well,
women in the
for me,
workforce.
what I've seen, because I've worked both on the marketing and the PR side, is that I've seen a shift in the gender shift in both of those areas. So, especially with small to medium-sized businesses, I've seen way more of that become more dominant with women, especially in public relations.
Yeah.
And then on the marketing side, I still see some of that senior leadership still reside at the very high, larger companies. But yeah, I think there's space for it all.
Awesome.
There's
Yeah.
evolution happening. People
Yeah.
are moving in and out of spaces. I think it's important to have gender diversity in all
agree.
of these different occupations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What's a lesson that you've learned in your career? Is that something that you've had to learn to navigate, or like something that you learned when you were first starting out? Obviously, that is a major shift from the Marine Corps to this marketing PR
Yeah.
world. So how did you
Yeah,
navigate
so
all
I
that?
did marketing and PR in the Marine Corps. So I did that. And the biggest shift when I moved out and I worked for UPS, I was the UPS Stores PR director, marketing lead for social media, 5,000 plus franchises. I think the biggest thing for me was really understanding the paid media side, understanding influencers, understanding how do you have a brand that spans across a country, and each one of those franchise owners is still independently running their organization, but how do we maintain consistency with our brand, with our messaging? I was like inundated with learning about how do we make these multi-million-dollar commercials, and how do we do everything in place, in-store marketing, and how do we make sure that that is consistent? And so it was those were probably some of the biggest things. And I think what I took from my military side into working corporate was a depth understanding of crisis communication, and also just being super scrappy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like we didn't have as many restrictions and barriers. If we came up with an idea, we could run with it. So I like to bring that creativity over.
And to merge that scrappiness and that creativity, when you came to AMA last semester, you talked about Small Biz Challenge. And that was a perfect example of, I think, bringing in your marketing efforts to bring in those brands and communicate that value.
Yeah.
On that note of that scrappiness, when you're developing those ideas, where are you pinpointing from? What are you looking at? How are you identifying these issues and moving with such an urgency? Because Small Biz was great. I truly do think it's great.
And guess what? The Small Biz Challenge is out right now. So
Oh,
they have
yeah.
another nomination
Applications are
period
open.
for if you know of any small business owners, they can apply to that. And they're now giving away up to $35,000.
Wow.
Incredible.
And they're
Incredible.
doing what they did is they've modified it to partially virtual, and then the final. So they'll have pre-qual virtually, and then the full like actual day of challenge will be your final nominations. But to answer your question, we're working as a team. So we usually have creative group that we work with. We have an agency that we were working with as well, and really it's just listening and thinking about our customers and thinking about what is going to uplift them. These competitions are there in order to help uplift the small businesses and give them a chance to have a voice, get their brand out there. I think that's how it came up. And I want to say, one of the other clear things was having leadership that allowed us to dream and to think big and to not be stuck into the parameters. Because sometimes when you go into marketing, they might be doing something, and for you to go in and say, let's do something different, they're like, why? It's already working. I don't want to shake the boat.
Yeah.
but it's having good leadership that allow you to have that creativity. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Like you giving small businesses the opportunity to actually like grow themselves and like become successful, because I know how hard it is to be like tiny, like in competition with these billion-dollar corporations. Like it's so terrifying to go into that world after college. But I was gonna ask about is it your company or is it your Cause San Diego? What was that?
So Cause San Diego is a nonprofit program.
So I was going to ask about your nonprofit, Cause San Diego. I heard that you were having a conference in 2025 on October 9th. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
We just announced
Yeah,
that.
I know,
we had a kickoff event on Tuesday, announced it. So the Cause Conference has been around for 26 years. This is the 27th year. It was formed long ago in order to help make the nonprofit sector more effective. And after COVID, it broke away from the American Marketing Association of San Diego. It's actually where it lived.
Oh.
Yeah, so it resided
cool.
Founding
within.
origin.
Yep, it was one of their signature conferences that they put on. And when it detached, what myself and several others did as a group of volunteers is that we wanted to reimagine it. We felt that for 20-some years, the nonprofit sector had matured as far as with sustainability and support, different elements that were helping them. But what we saw the biggest opportunity, maybe it came from my time working on the small business side or with UPS, but it was how do we activate more of the business community to lean into social impact, environmental sustainability. And so that's where we did a conference in 2022 at USD, sold out, and then moved forward. We created Cause San Diego based on feedback from our attendees that wanted more. So anyway, the conference will be October 9th at Sharp Healthcare headquarters. They have a state-of-the-art area there that we use. We pretty much buy out all of their spaces, their auditorium breakout sessions. We bring in speakers from all over the country as well as local. We offer opportunities for college students to come out with some scholarships. We have discounted rate tickets, and it's across sectors. So you've got for-profit, nonprofit, government, academic, and then we bring in the college students. We do a scholarship. Yeah, that's coming up. So if you're already doing things in social impact, you might get a chance to win up to $2,000 to $3,000.
You guys
as
hearing
one of
that?
our
Save the day, everybody.
Yeah.
Save the day. You want to do it. October
Yeah.
9th, who's carpooling?
There you go. And it's right at the beginning of the semester, so you're not too stressed over classes.
Oh, no
Awesome.
midterms.
Slap on a
terms
student,
yet.
get out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some key skills or experiences that you recommend students focus on while they're in school looking at these careers in PR and nonprofit work?
Yeah. So I've actually had some volunteers helping out with Cause, and I am on a couple of other nonprofit boards, and we often try to bring in interns to help. And one of the key things that I'm noticing as a deficiency or more of where I want students to lean in is to be multifaceted. So, for instance, you all are doing this podcast.
Right.
You know, you probably have never touched podcasting before, but you're doing it. And this isn't a class. You're doing this extracurricular, but you're going to gain so much, right?
Yeah.
So what I really encourage you all to do is you need to understand all the different aspects of what PR marketing has going on with it and figure out a way to get in there and get some practical application with it.
Yeah.
Not only that, I really do believe that at this day and age, with Canva and other online apps that allow us to create content, you really do need to lean in and start learning how to make content. And not just writing, but also visually.
Yeah.
Understanding how to create that content. It's hard. I've tried to figure out how to teach that, and it's really hard to teach that creativity piece.
Yeah.
But I found more and more people coming in and not having that, and it pains me because it's not something I can just go, okay, go do this real quick, and you know how to do it, right? So there's that, and then the other thing I would say is that immerse yourself into the latest trends of what's happening so not just learning in the academic realm and then doing practice stuff, but always be listening and learning, listening to like what are the biggest trends coming, what's going on TikTok, what's happening here, what are the shifts, and also understanding which markets are moving in those places.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because when you go to work for a company, you're not going to market to everyone.
Yeah.
You're gonna the best companies know how to create a niche and really profile who they're trying to reach and they do it amazingly well. And they know where those people are. They know how to capture them, when to capture them. So start getting in that mindset.
Yeah, I have a sneak little plug for the AMA, but one of our directors, Alon, he does Adobe workshops for all of AMA to teach them how to do all this creative work and get into I'm saying this so the people listening go
Get multifaceted.
But listen to Staci, you know. I mean, you need to know how to produce the content to become successful. You cannot be left in the dark on that, or else it's going to be even harder to progress yourself in the marketing realm.
Yeah, and there's so many free areas out there for you to do. Go get those certificates.
Yep.
Add those into your profile. Put those on your resume. Put those on your LinkedIn. It's not as much about, it doesn't have to have a college label on it for everything that you do. A lot of it could be, there's all types of programs out there for you to get into. And by the way, video by far, you know, it's getting so easy. And then AI, oh my goodness. AI is making it so much easier to make content. You know,
So
you
much
just kind of figure it out. So those are things that if you want to be marketable, I think you need to go ahead and don't be afraid of it. Just like y'all are in here, just take the first step. Admit if you're not good at it. Okay, because I have some people that are denial over that. I'm like, because it is a little subjective. It's like, well, I think it's good. Well, it's like, okay, well,
You spent 6 hours on it, so I'm sure you do.
yeah. And so when you get really good at it, so I can like churn out content of extremely quickly. That's quality.
Yeah.
But again, that's not something that I could do 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Exactly.
taken that time. So.
And with that, what are some common mistakes that you see incoming students do, and how can they avoid them in the future?
Mistakes having to do with just preparing.
Preparing and entering and networking.
You know, I see, and again, I totally understand this because my background, I didn't go to college right after high school. I joined the military, and then the military sent me to college to finish my degree. But I did 2 years night school, working full time. So I get that. That your work and that money coming in may not be related to what that aspiration is. So I think that you need to balance that out, because what hurts is that I've had people applying for jobs for me to hire, and I look at their resume and I'm like, gosh, why didn't you at least try to go get at least one internship or something that, even if it was volunteer, that would have shown me that you played in that space for a while. So I think that those are some, I wouldn't say a mistake. It's just a constraint that happens, right? But I would say for those that don't have that constraint, get out there. Just get it. And I'm saying don't hold out. Don't be like, I only want to work for this place. Okay, that's just not reality. Go. You can get some amazing experience with some really small startups, for-profits, or really small nonprofits that don't have all those restrictions and rules, and they'll let you fly. And you could sit there and you could grow their social. You could create their podcast. You could, do, and you'll just, and that's how you're going to learn it.
You'll accumulate that experience.
Exactly. I don't think you learn this stuff. It's PR and marketing is very experiential. That's how you pick it up, and then you have like that muscle memory.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think, well, to add to that, I guess, to reset, for students wanting to work in nonprofits and community engagement, what do you suggest they do to develop that? What do you suggest they do to put themselves in a proper position to give back to their communities, to work with it from a business standpoint? What can they do to add value right now?
So there are plenty of volunteer opportunities. They can go to Volunteer Match. They can do a search for different causes that they're interested in wanting to focus in on. Rarely will a nonprofit say no. Now, I will tell you that they want someone who is going to be consistent and committed to what they have. And I do know some that, they do want you to commit to a certain amount of hours and things like that, but they're not all like that. So to me, if you're interested, go dip your toe, get involved in something like that. Maybe it's like an event that they're doing. Maybe help them with some of the back-end marketing stuff for that. And that kind of gets you that little bit of practice, and that'll help you understand if you like it or not. But you can get in touch with me. I'll let you know. I know. Cause we're agnostic across all of the different social issues and environmental things happening in the region. So if anyone's stuck, they can reach out to us. Go to our website. We have our email there, and we will connect you.
Awesome. I feel like that's definitely something a lot of students are looking for right now, the internship battle that we all talk about, it is really hard.
Oh, it's real.
I think that it is like there are so many opportunities and there are so many options, but
There's
if
so many
you-
of us, though.
Yeah,
that's
if you
right.
think about it in reality, I mean, 15 internship applications are open. There's 250 students in the AMA alone. I feel like that's definitely where my anxiety builds up in school. Is like, okay, I need to get this internship. I need to get this internship, and that's always the mindset. But then when you don't get it, how do you suggest those students stand back up after those failures and keep on trying? Because I feel like the setback is always the hardest thing mentally to go through as a student. And to continue building yourself, I think, is something that a lot of us struggle with once you hit that wall as a 20-year-old,
Yeah, so my my advice on that is that you're in college in a huge region.
Yes.
This is a huge
So
region. It's so much easier here than if you were in school somewhere that was very rural and didn't have as many businesses and things like that. So I think you sometimes might need to just change your search and actually go back to LinkedIn, go back to not just your first level connections, but second, third level, and see if there's something there. And then because sometimes the internships or the jobs that you move into may or may not be financially viable or able to fit in, I think that you have to understand the weight between what that experience is going to mean later on for you and kind of weighing that out.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for college students to be like, yeah, I can take another loan out and go do this unpaid internship versus I can work my minimum wage job I've been working for 3 years and just stay in school. And I think that's where I had to flip my mentality. I had to push myself to another level to be like, okay, it's okay if I'm not going to be making money. I need to do this for my future and making money.
So the investment now may be in a different way than it is with that. But everyone doesn't have that. So if there's students out there that are having to hold down that job and do school, then, like I said, go get the certificates. Go do that learning and education online. Go find some stuff you can do on the weekends. There's a lot of event groups there's a lot of nonprofits or organizations doing things on the weekends. And maybe that's during a time that you can kind of take some time out there.
Yeah.
You've been recognized with the Paul M. Lund Public Service Award for your significant contributions to the public good. How can students develop a similar sense of that in their career and find that motivation and what they love and work with it?
Yeah, so part of that service comes from my upbringing with my family and me seeing others in my family to do so and give back. And I remember being with my grandmother when I was a little kid, and we pulled her station wagon up to the back of the hospital. I'm from a little town in Morgan City, Louisiana. And the back opens and we fill it up with these hot meals and these white boxes. And we drove around the city for the whole day delivering these meals to individuals who were home-ridden and they didn't have a lot of family available to help them. And I just saw what that did for them.
Yeah.
And I saw how a smile and how quality time can be so much more important than anything else to human beings. So
much.
I became a humanist, very much about
100%.
taking care of humanity in that way. And so my service in the military leaned into that for 24 years. And then post that, doing volunteer work with Team Rubicon, with Homemade San Diego here in San Diego, trying to really help to reduce and prevent homelessness and to overcome disasters through Team Rubicon. All of those things were times in my life that I felt that calling to go and serve. So that's kind of where that award came from. But for others, if you don't have that pull for it, I would just suggest to get involved, like I said before, the volunteer piece, having those experiences, finding something and going out and being involved.
I feel like that's something like as students that sometimes we lose sight of, is that we're all humans and we're all in the same boat right now. And I think it's hard to think
Feel
about
unified?
Yeah. Feel unified as like a group, because we're all fighting against each other right now.
You're looking at both your teammates and your competition every single day.
Exactly.
So scarcity is such a horrible thing that gets us to kind of go insular and to be so worried about what we all have. But one of the key pieces that we try to instill with Cause San Diego is that together we can be so much stronger. And if we can put our guards down long enough to see how we could lift each other up together instead of it being separate. I do want to mention something that just hit LinkedIn today.
Ooh, I'm excited.
And it's
Please.
through USD. So USD has an innovation internship program that they just were funded through the Conrad Previs Foundation here in San Diego County.
Okay.
And they chose 8 social innovation organizations here in San Diego to fund college students to be interns.
Really?
So
That is
essentially,
awesome,
they're
That's
funding the
incredible.
internship and sending the students to go and have that partnership with those organizations. So instead of the company who might not have the funds to do so, there's a way for that. And so
That's
I would
so
love
cool.
to see that
Oh my
type of
gosh.
that kind of collaborative.
So is this
Expand.
something? Is this something that us as students can apply for? Or are they doing that for companies?
So right now it's a pilot. USD has been funded through this foundation, and so it's tailored to their USD students.
Yeah.
But hey, once we know about programs like this and
Yeah.
opportunities, I really do, a call for even those that are listening that might be on the funding side.
Yeah.
To understand if you have funding and you're talking about workforce development, we're talking about stabilizing our college students as they leave the university.
Yeah.
How can we do that?
Yeah.
Right. And to do that, I just think it's so innovative and it's so collaborative. It's a cross between academic, philanthropy, and for-profit
that
business.
is actually the coolest thing I've
So,
heard. in a
yeah.
while.
And I find that very interesting about the nonprofit industry. It's super collaborative, and it's just it's truly giving back at all
Yeah,
times.
I
at all
think
costs.
that it's like the
And these are
sector-
for-profit businesses too that
Yeah.
they're going to work with. All of them have to have a social enterprise element. So that's kind of the
Like a
kind of,
philanthropy
well, not even that, but maybe just
CSR.
leaning more towards corporate social responsibility,
Yeah.
environmental sustainability, or like B Corp certified companies that are in that realm. Yeah. But anyway, the bigger picture is that we need more of that.
Yeah, we can
Right?
make
so
that
we
happen.
need more
Yeah.
of that because if they can help back end fund it so you all can be made right with some income while you're working,
Exactly.
you're
Yes.
also getting that job experience.
And I think that's something like we were talking about human to human a little bit ago, but I think that's something that often is looked past upon just because we are young. We're getting our education,
We are so fortunate.
We're kind of the last looked upon, if that makes sense, right now as this generation. But I know once we graduate, it's going to be like, but what is it, battle to the death? Here we go.
Yeah.
But right now it's kind of hard to get the attention from those professionals and from those companies. And like, this is amazing that these individuals were willing to put their money forward to help students because I feel like that is something that not a lot of people discuss enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note of developing and propelling for the future, what trends do you see coming about and evolving within the nonprofit sector and the PR sector? And how can students prepare to be a part of that change?
Yeah, so for public relations, I've noticed that more and more companies continue to lean into corporate social responsibility and really seeing that as something that can help to elevate or to maintain good credibility with their different stakeholders. So I see that continuing to grow. Obviously, influencers,
Yeah.
and not just macro, but micro.
Yeah.
And when I say micro, it could be as small as like I have less than 4,000 on LinkedIn, but the amount of people that I can reach depending on what I post out can be substantial. So it's really even going like grassroots level and looking to see who's out there and who has that credibility that your brand can lean into to help you to extend whatever business objectives you have.
Yeah.
And then on the marketing side, on the nonprofit side, I would say that, we've had some pretty big shakeups here recently with changes in potential funding. I'm not sure if you all know, but the federal government funds probably over $1 trillion in grants that go out to all different levels. A lot of nonprofits depend on that funding to keep what they do, whether it be a food bank, homeless shelter, otherwise. So for them, what I see them needing to do is to continue to stabilize their finances in the way that they can, but also they have to think and be scrappy and be very, very conservative with how they spend their money. And so they need people who who are going to come in and help them to do things, you know, more with less kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. You can do so much these days. Y'all
Yeah.
know how you can do all kinds of
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
online without breaking the bank. So
Yeah.
I
There
think
is
we
such an
need
emphasis on
more.
that
You can come in
scrappiness.
with that entrepreneur mindset. We call it an entrepreneur. So there's
I just learned that in
entrepreneurs.
class.
You learned it today. Okay. Yeah. So there's like the entrepreneurs. You start your own, or you're entrepreneur, which you're innovator within that
Yeah.
organization. So that's the mindset to
Yeah.
have, and to be able to navigate it. You need to understand. I would say for all all the students is that understanding the business acumen and how
Yeah.
to approach it properly. And not to get upset if people don't choose your ideas. I've had plenty of times where I'm an idea person, so I come up with them day and night in the shower, driving a car,
Yep.
you know, driving here, whatever.
1 a.m. wake up.
Exactly
voice
right.
memo.
Yeah, I always got a pen and paper ready to go. But
Yeah.
to not give up on that and don't let people, like, you know, if they say no a couple of times, don't stop. You know,
Yeah.
keep coming up with those good
it's
ideas.
okay.
Exactly. They'd much rather to have someone who's like creating than someone who's
and
just like a
thinking
doer. Right?
actively.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Asking all those questions. Well, since it's coming up on the end, I do have one last question for you. What is one piece of advice in your career that you've received that has meant the most to you and that helps you continue growing each day? I know that's like a really hard question to pick one, but
One thing, let's see, some advice. So, Zig Ziglar is not a personal friend of mine. He's a very famous person. And he's been a very well-known motivational speaker for sales and things like that. And one of the things that stuck out to me for a long time is that he said, don't let what happens to you define who you are. And he was always about, it's what you do with what happens to you. Okay. So we can always have challenges, we can always have setbacks, but it's our attitude and our mindset that really, you know, are the only parameters really. We may allow outside exterior things to happen, but don't let what happens to you define who you are. You yourself, it's what you do with that. And sometimes that really like disastrous thing that you thought it was could have been it turns out to be the best miracle that has ever occurred. It just doesn't feel that way at the moment.
yeah, exactly.
But
100%.
yeah, it's just like keep
Trusting the
going.
process.
100%.
I'm resonating with this
Right?
a little bit too much right
Yeah,
now.
same. I'm like, okay.
Calling me out a little too
like,
hard.
Yeah, I think when you go through, like, at least personally, like, so many negative events in a row, and you just feel like you're just getting pummeled
Kicked
and
down.
punched and just, like, shoved around from your life, it's so hard to be like, yeah, but I'm going to be successful. Like, I feel like that is one of the hardest places in your mental to get out of is what bad is going to happen next.
Because you get stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you just end up in the freeze when those situations
Definitely,
happen.
definitely.
Especially being so young, depending on the support system you have, it can be really hard to just dust yourself off with no
exactly.
experience about life and be like, yeah,
Yeah,
let's
and then
keep
it's
going.
like you get dropped off at college as a freshman and you're like, you got this. I'm
You're
like,
an adult now.
I remember getting my parents leaving that day and I was like, oh no. I was like, I don't know if I got this. And you know, one thing after another, oh no. And then I'm like, you know what? When I get older, I'll be able to tell my kids all these cool stories. And my mom lore, it's going to be amazing. That's my mindset. And that's kind of what gets me through.
I do want to say something that I didn't share earlier as we close that I've had all kinds of like roller coaster events that have happened. And if you've heard me, I know I spoke to the AMA for a bit, didn't share all those stories, but having someone outside of your family and outside of your friend network that you can lean on, like a mentor.
Yeah.
Or even the mentor word can get too formal, but just having somebody outside of those circles that you can connect with. I've been an SDSU alumni mentor for years. If y'all haven't checked it out, anyone listening, check it out. You know, and you have the ability to kind of like shapeshift and determine who of those mentors you connect with based on their background. But I've helped so many different college students, and sometimes we have one call and that's it. Sometimes we stay in touch for a much longer period of time. But the whole point of it is don't do this alone. And sometimes I think we get caught in our own little like bubbles.
Yeah.
We need to get out of those. Because guess what? My mindset is going to be so different because I haven't been in that bubble and I'm not there.
Yeah.
So just do that. It doesn't have to be a formal mentor. I know for me, I just had people come up beside me and they're like, you know what? I want to help you. And they're like, I'm going to be there for you thick and thin. You need to cry. You need whatever. I'm going to be there to cheer you on. So I think go find those.
Yeah.
Go find those heroes out there
and
that
I'm,
want
I'm so glad you're talking about this because this is something that not a lot of professionals will touch on with students, and it's just because it's uncomfortable. I mean, the sadness, the anxiety, all of that is something extremely uncomfortable. I mean, us as students, we don't talk about it enough, and I think I love that you brought it up, and thank you so much because that advice will probably change the way I move from now on.
Yeah. And using our resources that SDSU gives us.
Yes.
Just take advantage of all of those things, and I mean, even including this podcast. Taking advantage of the things that, you think you don't have, but really just look into it because there might be something there.
Yeah.
It's sort of what I'm hearing because I honestly didn't know there was a mentor program.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And a lot of juniors and seniors get in there.
Be taking a peek at that right after this.
Go home.
Get
I'm
your
like,
tuition's
mentor.
worth.
I know.
Well, yeah, that was lovely.
Oh, yes. So thank you so much, Staci, for coming on today and giving us your advice and your willingness to just share with us.
Your wisdom.
Yeah, we just appreciate your time and energy that you put in. And
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
October 9th, everyone.
Yep, we'll be there. You better be there, AMA. I know you are listening to me right now. See you October 9th. Thank you.
We'll be seeing you.
And we have some other stuff coming out throughout the year, so we'll be pushing that
keep an
stuff
eye out.
out.
And for our small bizzers, applications close. I believe it was February 19th, something like that.
Oh, you already checked it out?
I was on that website.
There we go. Yes.
Got you.
That is coming up. Yeah, they have a great program, so get out there and apply.
All right. Well,
And
thank you guys
thank you
for
for
listening.
listening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you next time.
See you next time.